The world was once again thrown into complete shock. RMS Lusitania, an unarmed civilian transport vessel, had been sunk by a German torpedo, breaking rules that prohibited such an act on civilians. Cork County Coroner, on the 8th of May. The local county coroner, John Hogan, opened an inquest in Kinsale into the deaths of 2 males and 3 females, whose bodies had been brought ashore by a local boat. Harren. Most of the survivors, and dead, had been taken to Queenstown instead of Kinsale, which was closer. On the 10th of May, Captain Turner gave evidence as to the events of the sinking, where he described that the ship had been struck by one torpedo between the 3rd and 4th funnels. This had been followed immediately by a second explosion. He acknowledged receiving general warnings about submarines, but had not been informed of the sinking of Earl of Latham. He stated that he had received other instructions from the Admiralty, which he had carried out, but was not permitted to discuss. The coroner brought in a verdict that the deceased had drowned following an attack on an unarmed non-combatant vessel contrary to international law. Half an hour after the inquest had concluded, and its results given to the press, the Crown Solicitor for Cork, Harry Wynne, arrived with instructions to halt it. Captain Turner was not to give evidence, and no statements should be made about any instructions given to shipping about avoiding submarines. The formal Board of Trade investigation into the sinking was presided over by Wreck Commissioner Lord Mersey, whom had previously overseen the Titanic inquiry. The inquiry took place in the Westminster Central Hall from the 15th to the 18th of June 1915, with further sessions at the Westminster Palace Hotel on the 1st of July and Caxton Hall on the 17th of July. He was assisted by 4 assessors: Admiral Sir Frederick Inglefield, Lieutenant Commander Hearn, and 2 Merchant Navy Captains, D. Davies and J. Spedding. The Attorney General, Sir Edward Carson, represented the Board of Trade, assisted by the Solicitor General, F. E. Smith, Butler Aspinall, who had represented the Board of Trade at the Titanic inquiry, was retained to represent Cunard. A total of 36 witnesses were called, and Lord Mersey queried why more of the survivors would not be giving evidence. Most of the sessions were public, but on the 15th and the 18th of June were held in camera when evidence regarding the navigation of the ship was presented. It was during the closed hearings that the Admiralty tried to lay the blame on Captain Turner, their intended line being that Turner had been negligent. The roots of this view began in the first reports about the sinking from Vice Admiral Coke, commanding the Navy at Queenstown. He reported that ship was especially warned that submarines were active on south coast, and to keep mid-channel course avoiding headlands. Also, position of submarine off Cape Clear at 10 o'clock was communicated by wireless transmission to her. Turner stated that he had discussed the matter of what course the ship should take with his 2 most senior officers, Captain Anderson and Chief Officer Piper, neither of whom survived. The 3 had agreed that the Admiralty warning of submarine activity 20 miles, 37 kilometers south of Koningbeg effectively overrode other Admiralty advice to keep to mid-channel, which was where the submarine had been reported. He had, therefore, ordered the change of course at 12:40, intending to bring the ship closer to land, and then take a course north of the reported submarine. On the 10th of June, just before the hearing, significant changes were made to the Defence of the Realm Act, which made it an offence to collect or publish information about the nature, use, or carriage of war materials for any reason. Previously, this had only been an offence if the information was collected to aid the enemy. This was used to prohibit discussion about the ship's cargo. The rifle cartridges carried by Lusitania were mentioned during the case, Lord Mersey stating that the 5,000 cases of ammunition on board were 50 yards away from where the torpedo struck the ship. An additional hearing took place on the 1st of July, at the insistence of Joseph Marichal, who was threatening to sue Cunard for their poor handling of the disaster. He testified that the second explosion had sounded to him, and the rattling of machine gun fire, and appeared to be below the second-class dining room, at the rear of the ship, where he had been seated. Information about Marechau's background was sought out by the British government, and then distorted and leaked to the press so as to discredit him. Captain Turner, the Cunard Company, and the Royal Navy were absolved of any negligence, and all blame was placed on the German government. Lord Mersey found that Turner exercised his judgment for the best, and that the blame for the disaster must rest solely with those who plotted, and with those who committed the crime. 2 days after he closed the inquiry, Lord Mersey waived his fees for the case and formally resigned. His last words on the subject were, "The Lusitania case was a damned, dirty business." The full report has never been made available to the public. A copy was thought to exist amongst Lord Mersey's private papers after his death, but has since proved untraceable. The British Royal Admiralty wasted no time in vilifying the heinous act, and America, now poised to retaliate at Germany due to the loss of life from United States passengers on board, would do the same. Schwieger was condemned in the Allied press as a war criminal. In Germany, however, Schwieger was originally praised as taking down such a prestigious ship. This praise would be short-lived, however, when America showed its anger in the press. In the aftermath of the sinking, the German government tried to justify it by claiming in an official statement that she had been armed with guns and had large quantities of war material in her cargo. They also stated that since she was classed as an auxiliary cruiser, Germany had had a right to destroy her regardless of any passengers aboard, and that the warnings issued by the German embassy before her sailing plus the 18th of February note declaring the existence of war zones relieved Germany of any responsibility for the deaths of American citizens aboard. While it was true that Lusitania had been fitted with gun mounts as part of government loan requirements during her construction, to enable rapid conversion into an armed merchant cruiser (AMC) in the event of war, the guns themselves were never fitted. However, she was still listed officially as an AMC. Her cargo had included an estimated 4,200,000 rifle cartridges, 1,250 empty shell cases, and 18 cases of non-explosive fuses, all of which were listed in her manifest, but the cartridges were not officially classed as ammunition by the Cunard Line.